Kong. I am Andy Curtin.
And I am Vivek Mahbubani.
You can find me online at Andy Curtin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. And
You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, those social media things at Funny Vivek, sometimes with the letter M at the end. So try both. Funny Vivek.
Do you know who the guy is that stole your Funny Vivek?
I've emailed that person, and that person has ignored me.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they're too funny for you. I don't know.
Maybe they're the original Funny Vivek.
We do have a bit of a request this week. We are now live on iTunes. So if you do us a huge favor, we really need people to subscribe on iTunes, even if you're listening on other platforms. If you have iTunes or Apple Podcasts, please hit subscribe, rate us, and if you're really feeling like a helper, review us. That would be super awesome.
And if you want to ace this exam, the correct answer for the rating is 5.
Yeah, there's no other option than 5.
Yeah, that's it. If you put less than that, I'm like, sorry, you messed up.
Let's not be silly about this. This definitely has to be 5.
Yeah. 1 complete sentence for the review, 5 for the stars, and of course, subscribe.
So today we're talking about probably the most important people in Hong Kong, the helpers.
The underrated.
We're going to be talking about who are they?
Yep.
Where are they from? There's been a lot of high-profile incidents with the helpers that we want to talk about today. And also just, your experience being here, like growing up. You grew up with helper, right?
I had a helper, yes, correct. I had a helper growing up, and I've turned out okay.
So I got to say that, like, when I first moved down here, the word helper, it doesn't sound great.
It sounds very friendly until you find out what it really means.
Oh, I thought it was... No, as soon as... I guess I knew what they were referring to.
Yeah, it's
And
just
I
a
was
nice
like,
way.
You call them that you're the person you're paying nothing.
Yeah,
You're
to just help.
helper. It's like
They're doing more than helping.
Euphemism for slavery. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. It's like, oh, they were just helping build the pyramids. That's all it was. The pharaoh was giving them encouragement to go up there all day long and just help us out.
Okay, yeah, you made it sound like culturally interesting instead of just like, I have a person in a cage that I don't pay enough money,
We're trying to do the positive spin here, man. We can't be all like a one-sided.
No, I'm not. No, well, I'm just saying like my initial perception of that word.
Yeah.
I was like, woof.
Well,
I didn't feel comfortable saying it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not even being cute. And I'm Australian. Like, we don't have a high bar.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I get offended when someone says, hey, can you come and help me? I'm like, what do you think I am?
Yeah.
What are you trying to help you? I can assist you.
Yeah,
I can cooperate with you, but I'm not helping you.
So that's like if someone progresses, you're like, I started out as a helper, but now I'm an assistant.
Yeah, exactly. Who would have figured an
Corporate
assistant is supposed to...
progression.
An assistant is at a higher level in society than a helper. It's a shame.
I love what you say when we're getting ready for this. You're like, yeah, who's not a helper?
Yeah.
Who isn't helping?
Yeah. And that's the thing. If someone has actually attained a level of being so unhelpful that they're like, yeah, that's not a helper.
That guy over there, not a helper.
Yeah, exactly. You need to rethink your friendship circle.
Yeah, I'm
right
sorry.
there.
I'm just looking to have helpers around me. So I moved from Shanghai, right? And it's interesting because in Shanghai, we call it an IE, right? And pretty much everyone has an IE.
It's a translation of the Mandarin word, right?
Well, IE literally means auntie. It's like a member of your family.
Yeah, same here.
But it's different because they don't live with you usually. It's usually just like a cleaner that comes around,
All right, so
once
9
a
to
week
5?
or something. Most people know, unless you have kids. And then if you have kids, people they might have like a, what do you call it? Like a yesao. You're the person that lives with, there's someone that will actually...
They'll stay in your flat,
live
room.
with in the same room as the baby, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of getting closer to what it is with helpers for kids, people with
All right.
kids here. But the other thing is that, like, legally, those people are Chinese people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no issues with their citizenship or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can just hire them and they can come to your house. Whereas in Hong Kong, to have a helper, their presence in the city is facilitated by the fact that you've employed them.
Yes, correct. It literally what they call foreign domestic workers. So
Right.
they're here to work domestically, and by domestic, we don't mean in Hong Kong. We mean in your house.
So and to be here, to be able to come, and it's interesting because they cannot get permanent residency.
Yeah.
They come in on a foreign domestic helper visa.
Yes.
And they have to have an employer, like, sponsor them. If the employer fires them, they have 2 weeks to get out of the city and they have no ability to stay.
It's very harsh, and for those 2 weeks, no one's helping them. That's the bizarre thing.
Who will help the helpers?
Exactly.
It's like who will
heal
the police?
Yeah, exactly. Who will heal the doctors?
Yeah,
right?
there
When
you
the
go.
dentist has a bad tooth. Now that's the thing, though.
You know in The Simpsons when he's like, Who will police the police? He's like, I don't know, the Coast Guard.
Exactly, just like keep shifting responsibilities. Okay, you take care of A take care of B. So that's actually the thing, though. In Hong Kong, having a helper at home is a very common feat. It's part of growing up. It's understood, and you get different degrees of employers, right? So some of them are really nice and friendly. They consider you part of the family. Some of them are like, it's very clear. We eat on this table, you eat on that table.
Oof, what do you think is more common?
I would say depending on different areas and different mentalities, I think the new generation would be thinking, hey, they're part of the family because they grew up with a helper at home. Whereas the older generation will probably be thinking, well, I'm paying you. I mean, no one's treating me really well at work. I don't get the same big table as my boss. So yeah, you're going in that corner right there. So there's that challenge.
And there's a lot of them. The helpers, they make up 5% of the population in Hong Kong.
5% of 7 million people.
And 10% of the working population.
Phew.
So 1 in 10 people working in Hong Kong is a domestic helper.
Wow, that is wow. So 10% of Hong Kong is helpful. That is very special.
The other 90%, not so helpful. You're not going to get much out of them.
Maybe assisting, but not helping.
And you know what's interesting? It's not. You think about the phrase helper sounding racist. It's not racist because they are not one race, but it might be sexist.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because 98.5% of them are women. They are almost entirely women.
So either it's sexist or it's just showing that men are seriously, as we've been always told, we're incapable of anything.
Well, it might not be the fault of the employers that they're predominantly women, because the reason it started, so up until like the 80s, it was almost actually the 90s, it was almost only Filipino.
Okay.
And the reason why was in the 1970s, actually, I wrote it down. There was a president.
One of the governors
in
of Hong
1974, the president, Fernando Marcos, implemented a labor code because they had an economic crisis. So they were exporting them. So they actually made a law to get the women of the Philippines to, the government gets money and they send money back. So it actually helped the economy. So that's why they're predominantly women. It's not because of any requirement of the employers. That's who's being sent.
Wow.
By the countries.
1970s rule has an impact all the way down to 2020.
Yeah. In 78, they privatized the recruiting agencies because you can only do it through an agency.
Yeah.
And it's now like a pillar, a pillar of the Filipino economy.
Yeah. I think it's one of their biggest income makers, being foreign domestic workers.
Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a massive export for the country.
Well, it definitely is ingrained in everyone's heads over here in Hong Kong. I mean, you've always got that running joke where a lot of kids nowadays, they speak with English within a Filipino accent, even though they went to local Chinese schools.
Is that real?
You get a few, some of the kids are like,
that's so funny. But actually, Filipino accent, I feel is
it's nice. It's fun.
Yeah, I was going to say it's maybe clearer than the Hong Kong accent. I was like,
it's definitely clearer than the
Australian
Australian
audience,
accent.
Andy.
Get out of here. What?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So you have that. And I think it's just that mentality because like what you would find a lot of times with kids, they actually grow attached to their helpers growing up.
Oh, I bet. Oh, man, how rough would it be to like lose the person that raised you?
Yeah, and then the weirdest thing
because your dad was like, she's not part of the family.
Yeah, right. And she wants a raise. Get out.
Yeah,
you're like I'll give you
have
my
2 weeks.
Money. You have 2 weeks.
Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Me country. All right. So the thing though I have to say is many times I see helpers with their kids on trains or transportation. Basically, they take care of them the whole day, and it doesn't even just limit to the kids. It's like they're taking care of the parents too.
And 1 in 3 households in Hong Kong has a helper. By household I mean a house
Family.
with kids.
Yeah.
1 in 3 families has a helper.
So 2 families, the parents are actually being responsible.
Yeah, we don't know who they are.
Aren't you one of them? You're the good guys, right?
No. I don't. But I have my mother-in-law, so I'm going to call her a helper. But we have someone who helps us with the kids. Yeah,
exactly.
Basically, if we didn't have someone, I don't know how we'd do it. And that's the thing for a lot of expats.
Yeah,
I know expats who have kids here, and they literally can't psychologically understand how they could go back to their home country and not have help
because they tasted it.
They don't move back. Yeah. They're like, we're going to wait until the kids can feed themselves and then we'll move.
Yeah.
And probably by By feed themselves, I mean like 17 or 18.
Yeah, exactly. They want to have
I
the
mean, like
full-
they can make the food. you know?
Exactly. If they commit a crime or whatever, it's on them. We're done. We
Yeah.
can leave, you know.
But that's how significant they are to a household.
Yeah, definitely. I think in Asia as well, but Hong Kong definitely, because I think the daily workload, everyone's working long hours. You get back home, no one's really wanting to cook. Your home's a mess, and you're just like, this is terrible. But then you have someone in the house, and a lot of times you will have helpers who they got to stay with you. But the challenge though is with houses being so small, it gets really awkward.
And the rooms that they get are
Yeah.
usually like frequently no window.
Yeah.
It's like the bed and then a sack of rice or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite harsh. There have been many conditions where it's been reported in the news where, let's say, they converted the bathroom and they put like some mattress, raised up mattress, bunk bed or something, and there you go. The helper sleeps over there.
I saw one and it was like, like a kitchen cupboard, like a high kitchen
Oh
cupboard.
yeah, they converted it.
They were like, yeah, you could turn this into a helper room. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I make my kids sleep. But
Yeah, I mean, but they're your
they're
kids.
not people.
Exactly. Right. It's very different. They're not.
They're not helping anyone.
Exactly.
They're the anti-helper.
And therefore they get the cupboard, with the spices and everything. They're like, hey, you smell better that way. You'll enjoy it. Here's some Parmesan cheese. You've been a good boy.
Here's a question for you. What do you reckon is the largest, the country with the highest percentage of helpers in Hong Kong?
If I'm correct, it was Indonesian, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I did my homework. Yeah.
It's pretty close though.
Yeah.
It's 49.4% are Indonesian, 48%
Whew.
from the Philippines.
Wow.
And 1.3% from
Everywhere else?
Thailand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Huh, I didn't know that.
They're the only 3 countries that are permitted to get the worker visa.
Oh, okay. No wonder.
And
I see.
actually, it's you technically it is legally open to get them from another country.
Yeah.
But no one's ever done it.
Oh, okay. What about if you're mixed race, half Indonesian, half Filipino? Do you like double it?
Well, you would get it because you fit into 2K. Yeah, where are they in the percentages?
Yeah, exactly. You statisticians.
Yeah, I love it.
Statistics.
According to these statistics, well, women kind of have babies with women, right? So,
Well, I mean,
given that they're
certain-
almost entirely women,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they can't raise children. I mean, like physiologically,
Yeah.
these people can't have kids. They can't have mixed babies.
Well,
If there were men and women,
Yeah.
that might actually be a valid
true.
point.
Well, I mean, then again with today's technology, nowadays anything's possible. If you dream high, you aim for the stars. That kind of positive talk.
If you sizzle long enough,
Exactly. Eventually, the friction will cause
my
something
God.
to get.
I love how
conceived.
you doubled down. It's
No, I'm
like,
just saying.
I was trying to throw you a curveball, Vivek. I didn't really try to knock it out of the park.
I'm just saying, man. When you have a positive mindset, anything's possible.
That's
I mean,
the most
we
you
reached
thing
the
ever.
moon.
That's so you. That's the difference between you and me. Is I think the world is going to burn, and you're like, yeah, lesbians could make a baby if they push hard enough.
Yeah, right. There's no willing their way through it.
Yeah.
No, but the thing though is that the fun part is you've got a lot of the running jokes, right? The domestic helpers and help all that kind of stuff. But if you actually walk around Hong Kong, it's actually quite a fun atmosphere. What I really used to enjoy a lot was walking downtown, especially on a Sunday when there's a holiday.
So that's the thing. I know. Can you explain that to me? What
Yeah.
what is going on Sunday?
All right, so Sunday, it's been a long time this has been going on. So if you go down the Central side, let's say Exchange Square or even near the pier, you've got a lot of people just enjoying a picnic. But a simple picnic with, let's say, cardboard boxes or whatever, and just having a good time. You will see a bunch of highly likely helpers sitting around and just enjoying, laughing, singing, dancing, doing their nails.
Yeah, there's no question. You go out on a Sunday and they are all over the streets.
Yeah.
There are the Filipinos and Indonesians.
Yeah.
Playing cards,
Yeah.
like eating, like it's
Yeah.
a thing. It's a big
it's
thing.
a thing. And
Is that because it's the day off? Like
usually Sunday is the day off. But you still get some of them who get a holiday on Saturday instead or during a weekday, because some of the employers may prefer they get another day off, so then Sunday they're at home with the family, or they just choose themselves. They're like, I don't want to be with the rush and the crowd on Sunday. I'd rather come out on Saturday with my friends instead. So you've got that. But the vibe is so cool. Like if you go to Victoria Park, and majority of Victoria Park would be more Indonesian helpers who are enjoying themselves, because that area you'll have a lot of Indonesian supermarkets and stuff like that. Whereas Central, you get a lot of the Filipino helpers who would be hanging out there. So you got Worldwide House where there's a lot of Filipino stores, and it's just a nice vibe. You walk out, you're like, hey, you know what? These guys are having a good time. And when I was young, I was like, I'm jealous of them. They're actually enjoying themselves. You know, they're having a little corner. They got the karaoke.
miserable Vivek over here.
Yeah, I was like, boo-hoo. Where are my friends?
But also, and I want to make this point, which you were kind of stumbling into it for a second there, is not all of the Filipinos and the Indonesians in the city are helpers.
Oh, yes. Let's make this very clear.
Certainly, like at the comedy club, aside from the bar manager, 100% of our staff are Filipino. In the F&B industry, you know. Also, there's a lot of Nepalese in the F&B industry.
Definitely a lot.
Interesting, no Nepalese helpers.
Yeah. Oddly enough, I think the Nepalese, because of the history, right? Them, most of them being the Gurkhas back before when it was the colony, British colony. So they were not really...
Weren't the Gurkhas soldiers?
Yeah. So there were a lot of them.
They're like the most badass soldiers of all time.
And that's why they're at bars now. I mean,
they're here? Why is it? Are you serious?
No, I mean, like Gurkhas, the families, you know, they had the next generation, and the next generation, some of them stuck with being...
It's like toughest warriors of all time.
Yeah, you go to
the
a bar.
next round, a barista. Or
Yeah, exactly. Would you like... you want skim milk? What the hell's wrong with you? Give me 20.
I will smash your latte.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, that's because the avocado smash, you know, that kind of stuff that they have, the new age cool hipster food.
I'm from Australia. That's like a national icon.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So
Smashed
that's
avocado.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, well, you kind of just pressed it hard. It's like saying, you know, a helper versus. I mean, let's not over.
Yeah, I like smashed your avocado.
Yeah, dude. How much do you smash, bro? All right, so well, that means something else. I know that.
I've heard of sex before.
Well, speaking of sex, actually, you're allowed to help right now. Just kidding.
Oh my god, this took a turn.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of times people have this misconception of it's just like myself being Indian, right? Before people would think, first of all, oh, you probably work as a guard at a bank or construction. I'm like, no, a lot of them are actually the top floor of the bank as well.
Is that a thing that you faced being?
Yeah, growing up for sure. I mean, because it was very common in hotels where you would have
like you're working at the bank. You're like, I'm 8.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
working anywhere.
Hello, I'm Indian. I mean, yeah, exactly. Why are you guys confused? What do you think I'm guarding against?
Yeah, I do think you had facial hair when you were 11 years old. Though.
I was born with facial hair. That's why I just came out smooth. There was no like it's stuck. I was like, oh wow, this is great.
Oh my god,
the aerodynamics.
Why did I give you an inch on that? That was always going to blow up in my face.
Yeah, that's all right. No, but the thing is that stereotype has always been there, but it's changing a lot because again, you've got younger kids growing up over here. You've got the internet. People are sharing stuff. So you've had a lot of mixed race kids, which now may be half Chinese, half Filipino. Right, or half Chinese, half Indonesian, or maybe like half, let's say, American and half Filipino. So you've got all that. So this new trend where people are no longer limiting you to your race. So even with a helper, I mean, like as much as you might say majority is Indonesian or Filipino, there are also Indian helpers as well. Like I remember when I was growing up, we did have a helper at home.
In Hong Kong?
In Hong Kong.
But they mustn't be on the visa, I guess.
So they would be, but I think the rules have changed where you don't have to go through the agency only. You can actually employ someone as a domestic helper via your own wage.
Well, I don't like to question my own statistics here, but I think there's no Indians on the helper visa.
Yeah, for legal reasons, we'd like to scrap that part of the talk. Nothing happened. I had no helpers. They did not exist. We paid them in full. And no, we didn't pay them anything. So for tax purposes, I had to clean my own shoes and clothes.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, though, because there was an NGO that said that 1 in 6 helpers had been forced into labor. That was in 2016.
Yeah.
Raising the question as to whether it is slavery. But an interesting point, and this is something I was trying to understand. So the minimum wage for a helper is $4,520 a month.
Currently Hong Kong dollars, yeah.
Correct, which is not a lot of money. But the other thing is the minimum wage for citizens is $6,240.
Yeah.
But the helper comes with accommodation.
Yes.
So $4,500 plus accommodation.
Yeah.
Is actually not a nothing amount of money.
Well,
now, there is a question of whether the accommodation is good.
Is that a cupboard
There's a question
or
of
room?
how hard they have to work and how many hours they work.
Yeah.
But from a pure wage point of view, in this city, as much as you or I might want more than that, that is not an unreasonable amount of money in this city for what people are living on.
And that's exactly it. I mean, so on paper, it sounds pretty all right until the reality.
I think there's not any... my point is I don't think there's an ingrained abuse in the
No,
in the
I wouldn't say majority.
regulations,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I wouldn't say majority is abusive. It's just that sometimes when you do things repeatedly, it becomes the norm. So it's kind of like when you just get used to the helper waking up at 7 in the morning and being done with work at like 9 at night. You kind of go like, yeah, what about it? It seems normal.
And when kids, like, the thing about kids is it's so hard, it's so difficult that your standards, and when, like, I feel with kids, it's like we really depend on my mother-in-law,
Yeah.
but like I feel like I'm maxed out.
Yeah,
And
all the time.
sometimes I'm like, I need her to take over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. I need, like-
And I can see it's hard for her, it's hard
Yeah.
for us, and
Yeah.
and I'm always conscious of like, am I considering her enough? Like, am I giving her enough space? And I could see how I could get it wrong. I'm paranoid about getting it wrong. I could see how easy it would be
Yeah.
if this was a transactional relationship to
Yeah.
just disregard that sense of like
The emotional side
yeah,
of
she's
it.
family. So I'm
Yeah.
like obviously more inclined
Yeah.
to care about how this is for her.
Well, I actually spoke to a lot of helpers before for some shows I did on TV just to get to know them and everything. And what I found is that, yeah, a lot of them knew the struggles. It was tough. They admitted that, like, yeah, it's really difficult, but they knew they were doing for a greater cause. They needed to send the money back home for the family. So the struggles was, not to say it was right, but to them was like, it's worth it. I'm doing it for the greater good.
With that question of like it's worth it, and I'm not passing judgment on this at all, but there's a tendency for us to pass judgment and look and say, would I be willing to do that job, and would I be willing to have that salary? And the reality is that a lot of these people wouldn't have access to the other jobs that, you know, an
Yeah.
educated person
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this
yeah.
city with a working visa might have access to,
Correct.
or other cities. So the standard is also different.
So that as well. Also, the knowledge of options available is not the same. So, for example, if
Yeah, education is like a huge part of this.
Yeah, so there you go. It's not just education from degrees, but also the education of what's
what
available in the market.
knowledge you
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
about and a lot of people are like, they don't have the knowledge of what to do if they're being treated badly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like they don't know that there are rules about, and I'm not saying that as an empty statement, because there was a huge high-profile case in 2012 of an Indonesian woman who'd been abused, and you must have heard about it, right?
Oh yeah.
Her name
Okay,
was
yeah.
Irwiana
Yeah, that was a
Sulistiana.
very big case all over the news.
Right.
I remember, yeah, like we're talking abuse.
Yeah,
Not
so-
just like, oh, she was being pushed around. This was like bad.
Okay, so she was, and like this was addressed by Indonesia's president and the chief executive at the time, and she was actually included in Time magazine on its list of 100 most powerful people.
Wow.
Yeah,
'Cause the impact.
Because of the impact of,
Yeah.
of what they think was a representative case. So she'd have been abused for 8 months by her employer, who was a Chinese woman in her
Yeah.
40s. She was made to sleep on the floor. She worked 21-hour days. She didn't have a day off. She was regularly beaten with various household items, including a mop, a ruler, and a clothes hanger. I don't even
Wow.
want to think about that. Her wounds became infected and she was denied access to a doctor, so she was unable to walk. And when she finally got out of there, she was forced to go back to Indonesia, and the employer threatened the lives of her parents if she revealed the details of the assault to anyone. Now, clearly, that is on one end of the
Yeah.
spectrum of how bad it can be. But the question is, like, how big are the volumes on the other parts of that spectrum that are beyond what we would think is fair or reasonable? You know?
Well, I can tell you this, depending on different locations. So if you were living in somewhere where the houses or the housing estates were, number one, smaller, smaller flats and everything, so automatically it was understood that, yeah, you're going to have to sleep in the living room.
Well, the other thing is, it's like, what if your employer's also sleeping in a tiny room?
Yeah. So you have
You
that
can't
as
give
well.
him a palace if you can't afford a palace.
Yeah. But then there's the argument of like, well, until you can afford your own life to be better, what right do you have to employ someone to come to your house? I mean, you can't even take care of yourself.
Well, there is a minimum salary that you have to earn.
you have to prove. Yeah.
Well, you have to have a salary of $15,000 or $16,000 a month just to be able to employ someone.
So if I remember correctly, either you have to prove the salary or you have to prove savings. You have to have a
You
certain
can have
chunk of
assets.
savings.
Yeah, it's assets or savings.
Yeah,
that's-
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
right.
assets or income, basically. Yeah. The problem,
Sorry,
though-
assets or income, I
Yeah,
meant
yeah.
to say.
But the problem though is that, okay, so let's be honest, all right? Creativity and assets and income can be easily done. All right. And with all this stuff, there's a lot of gray area. So if we go into the real technicality of like, well, that money in your bank account has been there for the last few months, but is that money you can actually use to spend on people or not? Right. So there's a lot to argue over there. But what I'm saying is that there's both sides of the spectrum. You've got the side where it's like family, family, family. You know, the very positive say like, you know, we eat food together, like she cooks the food and then we actually sit in the table and enjoy it together. The kids enjoy it, the family enjoys it. It's part of the Christmas photo is included as well. Then you got the other spectrum where it's like this person's using a ruler and mops and stuff to hit someone, and it's just a shame. Yeah, that's just like, okay, that in no way is that correct. But what I would find is that it's really just a matter of mutual respect, really, you know. And the problem though is this comes from the parents. So what you will see is just from kids. If you're on the streets and you see kids treating
how bad is it for kids like emotional development to be raised by a person who your parents beat the shit out of?
Oh, it must be terrible, or it will
like
give you the wrong signal.
That's got to create monsters.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically just like family abuse at home, right? If you grew up watching, let's say, someone...
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
right? Same deal. You think, well, that's how it is, right? We're supposed to hit people.
Yeah.
So you yourself think that's the normality. So that's what's happening. So in Hong Kong, you've got a bunch of kids who unfortunately have grown up as spoiled brats because they're used to the ideal, I get home, I drop my bag on the floor, and it will be gone in the next hour.
How do you feel your friends in general, like growing up, how their relationship with the helper was?
What friends? What's this thing called? I'm sorry.
You mean like the TV show that I watched because I didn't have any?
Yeah, you mean the ones that work in the same hourly rate that I know?
Yeah.
Well, from what I found, honestly, during my time though, because you did not have the internet, so you kind of just had whatever your parents taught you was right or wrong. Lucky for myself, a lot of people around me.
You think people are getting their morals from the internet now?
Well, I mean, now that's the thing. They're looking at the internet. Well,
they're looking at the internet going, I'm supposed to have sex with everyone I meet.
Yeah. No, everyone's thinking, well, I don't beat it with a mop. I mean, so I'm all right. Okay. I mean, comparatively, mine was a pillow. I mean, I'm a good guy.
With a pillow.
If anything,
it's more of a massage. It's more of a pillow fight. She had a pillow as well.
Yeah, she had a bad back. I said, 2 negatives make a right. Let's do this.
I think we're going to hell, my friend. I think we're going to burn in the pits of hell.
Well, I hope someone will come there and help me.
No helpers down there.
Yeah.
They're going to heaven. They've done the right things. They're good Catholics.
And I will be the helper over there.
Or Muslims.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look at that. Hitting all the religions one by one.
No, because Indonesians are predominantly Muslims.
Yes, correct.
And Filipinos predominantly Catholics.
Yeah. Ah,
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay,
that
look at
wasn't
you,
a
man.
thoughtless statement that I threw out there.
Nah, but I would say one thing, though. The Hong Kong image definitely should include helpers as part of what makes Hong Kong great.
But that's the thing that I can't get my head around is the denial of permanent residency. So did you hear about this other case? So the other one was, I got the years mixed up. The abuse one was 2014.
Yeah.
This other case was 2012. There was a woman who'd been here for 26 years and applied for permanent residency and was denied.
Yeah.
Lost the first court case, won on appeal, and then the High Court overruled and said that helpers cannot get permanent residency.
It's a shame. And I'll be honest with you, I think the reason for that is just because not enough firepower behind this group. Right? If you
totally, yeah. They don't have access to lawyers because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
They don't know what the laws are. Like,
Yeah.
how did that, like, that employer that went to the High Court must have had, the helper that went to the High Court could only have had an employer.
Yeah.
Do you know how expensive it is to go to the High Court?
Yeah.
How many millions of years you'd have to earn $4,600 a month?
That's crazy. Like 4 generations into it.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to
easily.
go- yeah. So probably saved it up from the times from the pharaohs. You know.
I'm just saying.
My great grandfather. Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying.
Maybe 5,000
But
years.
see, that's the shame is that the law came into act where they can work here, but they don't get the permanent residency, unlike everyone else.
Yeah,
7 years,
I mean, it is good that they have that visa, that they can get it, and that there's a system, and that there are some standards for it.
Yeah.
And it is checked. I know.
Oh, for sure. And there's a full system, as in should something bad happen, we have ways to deal with it, versus like, oh, it's a little gray market, nobody really knows how things work, it's just, if something's going on, okay, whatever, we'll take care of ourselves. But what I find though is that the argument has always been problematic. Whenever people discuss the issue of, hey, permanent residency or rights for foreign domestic workers or helpers like that, usually a majority of Hong Kong either is not concerned, they're like, well, I'm okay with it, I don't really care, because it doesn't directly concern us.
Yeah.
Right? It's only those...
And, people from Hong Kong, they don't like to fight for things or
yeah, I mean, like...
It's not like they've ever protested before.
Well, we got better things than protesting for someone else. We got to protest for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're trying to save our own livelihood.
I'll fit you in for next Tuesday. You can do that? So there's that. So therefore, unfortunately, because of the lack of backing by the general population, which is understandable, yet I kind of feel, well, we kind of owe it to a lot of people. Let's be very honest. If everyone in Hong Kong had to do their own dishes, wash their own clothes and stuff, the productivity level of Hong Kong would just drop.
That's an interesting point. When you look at societies that are able to get access to really cheap labor, the difference that those cities have in their prosperity is drastic.
Yeah.
Think of like Singapore. Singapore's like the best example.
Yeah.
And then also like Dubai.
Exactly.
Without going into the ethics of clearly massive ethical issues over there, but just the fact that they're able to build their city without really paying for it.
But that's always the case, right? Because you're using cheap. It's kind of like saying, Apple computers and
you're
stuff.
talking about 10% of the workforce.
Yeah.
10% of the workforce doesn't have access to the minimum wage standard.
Yeah.
And are probably earning, like most people, they have the minimum wage standard, but like how many people are really on the minimum wage? As the percentage of the working population
let's be honest.
versus the percentage of helpers that are like close to the minimum helper wage. It's got to be really high.
See, the difference is that the minimum wage for Hong Kong people is basically there as you cannot go lower than this, but then there's so much opportunity out there to go higher than that. Whereas the minimum wage for helpers,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
it's like that's the rate. That's the going rate.
You made it sound smarter. That's what you did.
Yeah.
You took what I said, you made it sound like real sentences.
I just translated the Australian into English.
I'm like, fucking money. He's not down enough. They got a minimum. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Exactly. I wanted to make sure we globalize our podcast audience.
Translate it into English.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say, honestly, at the end of the day, to me, the biggest thing is really that you need to get out of the mindset of like a certain race is equal to a certain job. That's the big thing. So with helpers, anyone can be a helper. All right, let's be honest about that. It's just that
not for me though. I like to help myself.
Well, I mean, what you do behind locked doors is your problem. I mean,
are you like undersexed or something? It's your like go-to to everything's like, damn it, they were banging.
I'm just saying,
which is like the most inappropriate inclination to have on a podcast episode about helpers who are 98.5% women.
Well, statistically
underpaid women.
Well, everyone's trying to help everybody in some way.
That's not help. Yeah. You're not helping anyone.
You could help in a circle. You could help upside down. Whatever it takes, right?
Facing in opposite directions.
Yeah, exactly. You help your neighbors.
Oh my god!
You just throw your keys in a bowl and you help each other with whose keys whose. That kind of a deal.
Wow, I'm learning a lot about you today, buddy. Learning a lot.
No, this is when I'm scraping rock bottom and I'm running out of stuff to talk about. Let me just go to my little go-to card. I'm like, okay, just turn everything dirty.
I don't know if this is the best strategy in life. I'm just picturing you in job interviews. They're like, tell me about yourself. Well, I'm a hard worker. Oh, who's that?
Yeah, who's working so hard?
Yeah, nice legs, potential new boss.
Oh, man. No, I think I'll be all right. I mean, if anybody ever asked me for an interview, first of all, I was questioning my life, like, why am I at an interview with a suit and a tie? But that's another podcast episode.
I feel the same way, friend. I don't think I own any suits anymore.
I own ties, but I have
ties.
Yeah.
I have some beat up suits because I got to use them for sketches.
Yeah,
for comedy sketches. The only time I ever put a suit on.
Yeah.
Or the rare occasion I know someone that gets married.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't want to like, just to go back to the helpers, I feel like I've brought up, tried to have a nuanced conversation about it, and a lot of it is a little bit negative. But the truth of it is that it can be a beautiful thing, Like my friends, I have a lot of friends with kids, and I'm very observant as to how the relationship they have with their helpers is, and also in China, a lot of, and I'm not just talking about expats, but a lot of them are expats. They take this person as a member of their family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I only see respect if they're bringing out the coat hanger. It's like after I've left. And I think we're lucky to be able to have something like that, because I don't know how my parents raised kids without help.
Well, I'll put it this way. I'm glad I had a helper growing up, because if my parents raised me, no way I'd be over here. I'd probably be way
you
worse.
might be working in a bank instead of a
As the
comedian.
guard, thank you very much.
Instead of this comedian, this undersexed comedian.
No, I'm appreciative. Same thing. I think people around me, at least from what I saw, was they treated the helpers as part of the family. Especially in my family, we were taught to kind of show respect in that sense that, yeah, this person is here. They're not obliged to help you. All right, they're helping us all out, so let's help each other out. There's no necessity for you to throw your clothes on the floor. You can pick it up. I'm not asking you to have to fold it. And
That's
everything.
funny. We did have a cleaner when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and my mom would always be like, "You got to clean the house for the cleaners." I'm like, "Do you not understand how
Yeah.
stupid that sentence sounds?"
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
why am I cleaning?
No one's going to a comedy club telling the audience laugh first before this next comedian comes up on
Yeah,
stage.
that's a great example.
Yeah, no one's doing
No one's
that.
going to the doctor like, "Hey, perform your own surgery before you go to the doctor." You know,
Yeah,
but
get well soon.
But I didn't. But that was because I didn't get it. I get it now. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
The respect and stuff. And I think
It's
that was like-
unnecessary, basically. You know, like there's certain things that if everyone does a little bit, it'll just make the job for the other person much better.
yeah, they're not paid to pick up after me.
Yeah, yeah,
They're there
exactly.
they were there to get the place clean.
Yeah, exactly. Unless like you have a butler, then that's a whole different story.
They did wear black tie and a top hat.
Wow.
Do you know Jimmy Carr
Yeah.
has staff in his house and he makes them wear outfits like that? That's true.
Does he then like mock them afterwards?
He just roasts them.
Yeah.
These
What are you,
are-
a penguin?
Uses that I don't even like this. I'm not. This is how I'm not a rich. I'm not a rich person. I don't even know what they call it. But you know, when you're rich, they put the food on your table and then they take
the
that
silver dome.
Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
silver dome.
Yeah, yeah, whatever it is.
You
I
also don't
know.
have one.
I
That's
don't know.
great.
Yeah, yeah. I just know that they have to, and the food has to be so small on the big plate, and they're like, you know.
No, they're eating at home. They're probably got a turkey under there or something.
Yeah,
I don't, whatever
no
rich
idea,
people
man.
eat.
I've never had that kind of privilege. It was just like eat. I'm like, okay.
All right, that's all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our little chat about helping.
Yeah, I think what we learned today is that everyone can help each other.
I learned that you're a sex-crazed maniac.
I learned that you say words and I explain it properly.
That's a good, I'll take that. That's a good hit.